Here's why Otto Hightower betrayed Viserys the moment he died. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you love House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and deep dives into Westerosi lore. Let's begin. When King Viserys Targaryen drew his final breath, the realm should have mourned. Instead, within the walls of the Red Keep, whispers became schemes, and loyalty was traded for ambition. And at the heart of it all was one man, Otto Hightower, the loyal hand of the king, the steady advisor who served Viserys for decades, the father who placed his daughter Alicent in the king's bed, the man who, the moment Viserys died, betrayed his king without hesitation. But why? Why would Otto, who owed his entire station to Viserys, move against his will and crown Aegon II instead of Rhaenyra? Was it pure ambition? A father's desperation to see his blood on the throne? Or was Otto simply playing the Game of Thrones better than anyone else? Tonight, we are peeling back the layers of deceit, ambition, and cold calculation to uncover the truth. This is not just the story of a man who betrayed his king. It's the story of a betrayal that shattered the realm, ignited the dance of the dragons, and proved that in Westeros, loyalty dies faster than kings. Otto's rise to power. To understand Otto's betrayal, we must first understand the man himself. Otto Hightower was not born a Targaryen. He wasn't born of dragons, nor did he wield a Valyrian blade. His weapon was far sharper, his mind. Coming from the powerful but pragmatic House Hightower of Old Town, Otto learned early that power was rarely taken by force. It was taken by influence. When he became Hand of the King to King Jaehaerys, and later to Viserys I, Otto mastered the art of quiet manipulation. He positioned himself as indispensable, the wise counselor, the steady voice of reason. But make no mistake, Otto's loyalty was not to the crown. It was to the Hightowers, and more importantly, to his own ambition. When Viserys' wife, Queen Aemma, died, Otto saw his chance. He pushed his daughter, Alicent, into the grieving king's chambers. What began as comfort turned into marriage. And just like that, Otto Hightower placed his bloodline within the Targaryen dynasty itself. But Viserys complicated things. He named Rhaenyra, his daughter by Aemma, as his heir. To Otto, this was unacceptable. Why? Because if Rhaenyra ruled, the Hightowers would have no power. Worse, Aegon, Otto's grandson, would be nothing. From that moment, Otto's entire strategy became clear. Wait for Viserys to die, then strike. The deathbed of a king. By the time Viserys reached his final days, he was more ghost than man. Ravaged by illness, his body failing, his mind drifting in and out of lucidity. Yet even then, he clung to his decision. Rhaenyra was his heir. This was Otto's nightmare. Every moment Viserys breathed was a reminder that his plans could still unravel. Otto bided his time, surrounding the king with his allies, isolating him from those who might challenge the Hightower influence. And then, the moment came. Viserys died. No bells tolled. No ravens flew. The news was not proclaimed across the realm. Why? Because Otto made sure of it. For Otto, this was not the time for grief. It was the time for action. He convened the Green Council in secret. This was the meeting where loyalty to Viserys was buried alongside his body. The doors closed. Lords whispered, and Otto laid out the plan he had been sharpening for years. Rhaenyra would not sit the Iron Throne. Aegon would be crowned king. When Lord Beesbury protested, crying treason, Otto had him killed on the spot. There would be no hesitation, no debate. The betrayal was swift, ruthless, and absolute. Otto Hightower, the man who had once stood beside Viserys as his most trusted advisor, erased his king's final wish with a single council vote. Now the question, why? There are 4 key reasons Otto betrayed Viserys the moment he died. 1. Power and legacy. Otto was no fool. He knew that when kings die, those who hesitate die with them. If Rhaenyra took the throne, Otto's influence would vanish. The Hightowers would return to Old Town in disgrace. But if Aegon, Otto's grandson, became king, House Hightower would rule in all but name. This wasn't just politics. It was survival. 2. Fear of Rhaenyra's revenge. Otto understood Rhaenyra. He knew that once she became queen, she would never forgive the Hightowers for their scheming. He saw the danger in her marriage to Daemon Targaryen, a man with a reputation for ruthless vengeance. For Otto, this was not simply ambition. It was self-preservation. 3. The Hightower Creed. The Hightowers were not a family of warriors. They did not conquer with swords. They conquered with marriage, money, and manipulation. Otto's betrayal was not a rash act. It was the ultimate expression of his house's philosophy. We light the way. Otto was not lighting the way for the realm. He was lighting the way for himself. For the moment of opportunity. Otto had been preparing for this for years, but he needed the perfect timing. Viserys' death gave him that. The realm was unprepared. Rhaenyra was isolated on Dragonstone, heavily pregnant. The Green faction was united in King's Landing. If there was ever a time to strike, it was now. Otto's betrayal didn't simply crown Aegon II. It set fire to the realm. When Rhaenyra learned of her father's death and Aegon's usurpation, her grief turned to fury. Her coronation on Dragonstone became a declaration of war. The Dance of the Dragons had begun, and Otto, he believed he had outmaneuvered everyone. But in truth, he had doomed his own family. Aegon II proved to be a reckless, cruel king. Alicent suffered watching her son spiral into depravity. Otto himself would be dismissed as hand when Aemond, his own grandson, turned the war into a slaughter. Otto's betrayal was not the masterstroke he imagined. It was the spark that burned his legacy to ashes. And perhaps the cruelest irony of all, Viserys trusted him until the end. Even as Otto schemed in the shadows, Viserys still called him his hand. In the king's final hours, he never imagined that the man at his side was already sharpening the knife for his back. Final analysis: why Otto struck without hesitation. In the end, Otto Hightower's betrayal can be explained in one sentence. He was never loyal to Viserys, only to power. He played the Game of Thrones with cold precision. He understood the truth that so many others refused to see. In Westeros, oaths mean nothing. The crown belongs not to the rightful heir, but to the one bold enough to seize it. The moment Viserys died, Otto chose ambition over loyalty. He chose Aegon over Rhaenyra. He chose the Hightowers over the Targaryens. And in doing so, he unleashed a war that would drench the Seven Kingdoms in dragon fire. Otto Hightower was not merely a traitor. He was the architect of the Dance of the Dragons. The man who betrayed a king and, in the process, destroyed a realm. Otto Hightower didn't just betray Viserys. He betrayed the realm, the crown, and the very idea of loyalty itself. But in Otto's mind, he didn't betray anyone. He simply won. And that is the cruel genius of Otto Hightower. He understood the one rule of the Game of Thrones better than anyone else. When the king dies, the knives come out, and Otto's was the sharpest. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for full breakdowns of trailers, cast interviews, behind the scenes, and deep dives into every episode of King's Road. Until then, remember, in Westeros,